Hey, thank you for joining me to give your perspective on the caregiver side of food allergies. I think it's so important for medical professionals to know what happens on the back end when we go home. So, thank you for sharing your perspective today. And why don't we just get started with you telling us about when your child was first diagnosed with food allergies and, what was your reaction?
Right. So my daughter was about 3 months old when she suffered from severe eczema. And we were really trying to figure out what was causing it. We did have dogs in the house, so we did allergy testing for, dog dander and cat dander. And they did do an allergy panel, which did show eggs at that time. So we were instructed to avoid eggs and we were given epinephrine. And then we were passed along to an allergist who did some skin testing, and the eggs were, positive on her skin test too. So really, at that time was our first experience to have, food allergies in our household. I've been around food allergies with my niece, but it's always different when it's in your house because it really changes everything. And for our family, eggs is something we eat all the time. But of course, when it comes to your child, you'll do anything to keep them safe. So, for us, we kept eggs out of the house, and that was okay. But it was really our first introduction to, okay, this is the food allergy world, and where do we go from here?
My son is also allergic to eggs, so eggs is it's a hard one to keep out of the house, and we've done that now for years. No eggs in the house, cooking with eggs. Are there any other ways that the diagnosis of food allergy impacted your family as a whole?
Yeah, so once she was diagnosed with eggs, when she was 8 months old, she had severe anaphylaxis to something we did not know. We thought at that time it was cross contact with eggs until I dived in and found that she was severely allergic to mustard seed. So that one for us really hit home because, here in the US, they only document the top 9 allergens. But in, Canada and the UK, mustard is a top allergen, but here it's spice. So that part was hidden. So for our household, we didn't know what mustard was in. And anyone around us, our family, we had a new rule. You come into our house, wash your hands before, don't kiss her on the cheeks, because we don't know if you had mustard or you probably had egg that day. So for us, it was really educating the people around us and really diving into learning more about the spice allergen world.
Yeah, I always think those, the allergens that are beyond the top 9, it's just so hard to navigate those because you're fighting the unlabeled world. So I'm imagining that you called lots of companies and corporations and tried to get down to the bottom of what, spices really included.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you go to the grocery store and you want to try something new and it says spice. So you call the company. Can you get a hold of them right away? Probably not. So then, you just get discouraged and stick with what you know. And, then obviously the world of restaurants is a whole nother thing to tackle. And we're trying to navigate it.
Do you? How do you navigate going out to eat or traveling? What are your tips or standard procedures?
One, always calling ahead and trying to see if you can get a hold of the menu, and try to see if they declare anything on there. Call the restaurant, speak with the chef. If they're a restaurant that they're willing to work with us, we as a family would be interested in going. But for our daughter, we always bring her food with us because I just don't truly feel comfortable allowing her to eat something there yet, even though we still avoid her allergens. So if we decide to go to a restaurant, that's what we do. Most of the time, we just eat at home. And then traveling, we do travel a lot with her. We've traveled many places on planes. We go, we wash our hands all the time. We pre board, we wipe down the seats. Most of the time, we'll get like a VRBO so we can cook her food. But really, traveling with a suitcase of safe foods for her is kind of our go to.
And that had been our go-to for now. My son is 13, so we're going through this like evolution of, the gradual stages of going out to eat, traveling and doing all that. How's her school experience been?
So she's in the early learning center. She's in pre K. And really, our Red Sneakers Peoria, our chapter for Red Sneakers, we made her school the first early learning center. So, as a parent with food allergies, my goal is to get into our schools and make them better, and especially the school that my daughter is in, because I want to feel safe. And for me, they were open to my education, and they are Fair Check trained, which is great. We donated, medication to the school, but we set protocols and guidelines, and they follow through. But to be honest, I did look at a few other schools, and I did not feel comfortable sending her there. So I think it's so important as a food allergy parent to find a school that you feel comfortable with and educate them. And if you don't feel comfortable with, do not send them there. So
And I think that that brings up another point in that, you are a huge advocate. You've started a support group in your area. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the things. So Fair Check is one of the things in teaching schools, but what are the focuses of your support group, and what do you hope to accomplish with that group of parents?
the support that is lacking in the community until you're diagnosed with that food allergy. And the medical field, they tell you the diagnosis, they give you the medication, and then you go on your way. But your world changes. And so when we were diagnosed, I googled support groups, and Fair came up, which was great, but nothing in the area. So that was the real reason behind wanting to start one here in the Peoria area, just to get other families together. What did you do, in elementary school? What schools are good? Just to get other families to kind of lean on. So that was the real reason behind starting one in the Peoria area. But the schools, of course, as you know, are just lacking the guidelines and protocols. So, Red Sneakers Peoria, we really just are trying to get into all the schools and make sure their guidelines are up to date, make sure they're Fair Check trained, and we donate all of that. So, I want my child to feel safe, but there's so many more children around, and I've met so many people that they homeschool because of um, they're scared to send them to the school. So, really, that's what we're doing in the community. And we have, I really want to say, 100 plus people on our support group right now in our area, which has been amazing. And we met them at our event a few weeks ago. Um, but it's just so nice to be around other people that truly understand, because I think the world looks at food allergy families as, um, you're trying to just put them in a bubble, and you don't want them to live. Just let them enjoy life. And really, we are, but we're trying to do it safely.
100 people. That is amazing. And I'm so happy to hear about the growth in your support group. And I agree with you with what you're saying with, we're both in the medical field. And normally if I'm discharging someone from an ER, I'm giving a prescription and I'm saying, take this twice a day for the next 10 days. And with food allergy, there's just so much more to navigate. So I love that idea of supporting one another and having family support one another. What have you done in particular, especially when they're in that preschool age group and maybe being excluded from play dates, or you trying not to have to, restrict activities? What's your general stance on all of that?
I think the biggest thing is just educating your child. I mean, I've been teaching my daughter, Naomi, from the second she could talk. She's allergic, and what is she allergic to, and how to use the epinephrine. So she's really good at that. And anyone that walks in her house, she's like, did you wash your hands yet? Just advocating for herself. She's so used to it in her classroom, and her teachers will always say, Naomi, I'll help you. Let me wash my hands first. And the kids in her classroom know she's allergic to things. And I hear from their parents saying, my daughter was asking, can Naomi have this? And is this okay to have? So I think educating the people around her as well. And so when it comes to play dates, hopefully we're already surrounded by people that understand her allergies. And I might not feel comfortable going to their house, but they can absolutely come over to mine, in a place that's safe, and that I know that her allergies aren't here, and they can actually enjoy playing. So I really want to try to make her not feel excluded. And kind of bring the stuff here, right? I remember my sister, who has a 20-year-old who has severe food allergy, says, you always have the parties, right? You know that your house is safe. So you're the one that's going to be hosting Halloween parties and, different holiday parties, which I'm fine with, because, unfortunately, I'm not comfortable yet being having a 4-year-old, having her at other people's houses where she knows not to put things in her mouth, but she's still 4. Um,
And and I think that the earlier you build that community, those same kids as they go through elementary and middle school, they her friends get it so much that they will support her and say, "No, I can't have this or I can't have that." One last question for you. If you had a family that was newly diagnosed with food allergies and you had one tip to give them, what would you tell them?
I would say dive into a support group in the area. If not, check out FAIR's website. Obviously, there's other support groups, Facebook groups. Educate yourself as much as you can because you're not, unfortunately, going to be educated, by your PCP or the ER as much as you need. So do the research yourself. Educate your child at an early age on food allergies, and really go out in the community and find other families that have food allergies as well, and um, just advocate for yourself and your child.
That's fantastic advice. Lindsay, thank you so much for giving your perspective to our audience today on being a caregiver with food allergies. We really appreciate your input and your time.
Thank you so much for having me.